I know you have seen the headlines. I know your heart might be racing right now because someone sent you a message or you scrolled past a post saying that a massive travel ban is about to hit 39 countries, and suddenly, everything you have been working toward feels like it might crumble. If you are sitting there right now, worried about your visa, your family, your future, or wondering if you are about to be locked out of the United States, I need you to stay with me for the next few minutes because what I am about to share with you is going to bring clarity to the chaos. I am Uzair, and this is Real Guide News, where we cut through the noise and give you immigration information based on facts, not fear. No rumors, no panic. Just the truth explained in a way that actually makes sense. So let us talk about what is really happening with this so-called travel ban expansion hitting 39 countries in January 2026. I am going to walk you through this step by step, explain who is actually affected, who is not, and what you realistically need to do moving forward. First, let me explain what we are actually talking about here because the term travel ban itself creates a lot of confusion. In the United States immigration context, a travel ban refers to executive action that restricts entry into the country for nationals of certain countries. These restrictions are typically based on security assessments and are meant to address concerns about vetting procedures and information sharing between the United States and the countries in question. The original travel restrictions that many people remember were introduced years ago and went through multiple legal challenges before being upheld by the Supreme Court. Since then, the list of countries and the specific restrictions have been modified multiple times. What we are now seeing reported for January 2026 is an expansion of these existing frameworks to include additional countries, bringing the total to 39, according to the report circulating online. Now, here is the first important thing I need you to understand. When we talk about these restrictions, we are not talking about a complete and total shutdown of travel from these countries. That is a critical distinction that gets lost in the headlines. The actual policies are far more nuanced than a simple ban. They involve different levels of restrictions for different visa categories and different situations. Let me break down how these restrictions typically work so you can understand what might actually apply to your situation. Travel restrictions of this nature usually operate on a tiered system. Some countries may face a complete suspension of immigrant visas, meaning that people from those countries cannot apply for green cards through family sponsorship or the diversity lottery. Other countries may face suspension of certain non-immigrant visa categories, such as tourist visas or business visas, while other categories like student visas or work visas remain available. Still, other countries may only face enhanced vetting procedures, which means applications are still processed, but go through additional scrutiny and take longer. The specific restrictions applied to each country depend on the security assessment of that country and the ability of the United States to verify information about visa applicants from that country. Countries that share robust information with U.S. authorities typically face less severe restrictions than countries where such verification is difficult. This is why I cannot give you a simple yes or no answer about whether you are affected. It depends entirely on which country you are from, what type of visa you are applying for or currently hold, and what the specific restrictions are for your country within this framework. Now let me address some of the rumors and misinformation that I have been seeing spread across social media and WhatsApp groups because these false claims are causing tremendous, unnecessary anxiety. The first major rumor I need to address is the claim that everyone from these 39 countries will be immediately banned from the United States starting January 2026. This is not accurate. Even under the most restrictive travel policies we have seen in recent history, there have always been exceptions and waiver processes built into the system. People with valid existing visas, people with green cards, U.S. citizens from these countries, and others in specific situations are not simply banned overnight. There are legal processes and protections in place. The second rumor is that people who are already in the United States on valid visas will be forced to leave. This is false. If you are currently in the United States on a valid visa and you are maintaining your status properly, travel restrictions on new visa issuance do not affect your current status. Your lawful presence in the country is governed by the terms of your existing visa, not by new restrictions on future applicants. The third rumor is that green card holders from these countries will have their status revoked. This is also not true. Lawful permanent residents of the United States have significant legal protections. Your green card status cannot be revoked simply because of your country of birth or because your home country is added to a travel restriction list. Green card holders have the right to enter and reside in the United States, and this right is protected by law. The fourth rumor, and perhaps the most damaging one, is that people should immediately try to enter the United States before January 2026 to avoid being locked out forever. This kind of panic-driven thinking can lead people to make poor decisions, such as overstaying visas, entering on inappropriate visa categories, or making false claims to immigration officers. None of these actions will help you, and they can seriously harm your immigration future. Please do not make hasty decisions based on fear. Now let me talk about who is actually affected by these types of restrictions because this is where precision matters. If you are a citizen of one of the affected countries and you are planning to apply for an immigrant visa, meaning a visa that leads to a green card, you need to pay close attention to the specific restrictions announced for your country. Some immigrant visa categories may be suspended, while others may remain available. You should check the U.S. Department of State website for official announcements and consult with a qualified immigration attorney about your specific case. If you are a citizen of one of the affected countries and you are planning to apply for a non-immigrant visa, such as a tourist visa, student visa, or work visa, the impact depends on whether your specific visa category is restricted for your country. Many non-immigrant visa categories often remain available even under restrictive policies, though processing times may be longer due to enhanced vetting requirements. If you already have a valid U.S. visa in your passport and it has not expired, you should generally be able to continue using that visa for entry, though you may face additional questioning at the port of entry. However, if your visa is restricted and you leave the United States, you may not be able to obtain a new visa to return if your category has been suspended. If you are a green card holder, your status is not affected by these travel restrictions in terms of your right to enter and live in the United States. However, as always, green card holders should be mindful of spending too much time outside the United States, as extended absences can raise questions about your intent to maintain permanent residence. If you are a U.S. citizen, regardless of where you were born or your dual citizenship status, your right to enter the United States is absolute. No travel restriction can prevent a U.S. citizen from entering their own country. If you have a pending visa application, you should monitor the situation closely and check with the embassy or consulate handling your case for guidance. Do not assume your case will be denied, but also be prepared for potential delays or additional requirements. Now let me explain what the waiver process typically looks like under these types of restrictions, because this is something that many people do not fully understand. When travel restrictions are implemented, they usually include a waiver provision that allows certain individuals to be exempt from the restrictions on a case-by-case basis. These waivers are typically available for people who would face undue hardship if denied entry, people whose entry is in the national interest, and people who pose no threat to national security or public safety. To apply for a waiver, you generally must first apply for a visa as normal. If your visa application is denied based on the travel restrictions, you can then request a waiver. The consular officer will forward your request for additional review. These waiver requests are evaluated individually based on the specific circumstances of each case. I want to be honest with you about the waiver process. It is not guaranteed, and approval rates vary significantly. However, the existence of this process means that the restrictions are not as absolute as the word ban suggests. There is a pathway for deserving cases to be considered. Now let me give you some practical guidance on what you should actually do in response to this news. First, stay calm. I know that is easier said than done when your future feels uncertain, but panic leads to poor decisions. The immigration system operates on rules and procedures, and understanding those rules is your best protection. Second, verify information from official sources. The U.S. Department of State website, which is state.gov, provides official information about visa policies and travel restrictions. The Customs and Border Protection website, cbp.gov, provides information about entry requirements. USCIS.gov, provides information about immigration benefits for people already in the United States. These official sources should be your primary reference points, not social media posts or forwarded messages. Third, identify your specific situation. As I explained earlier, the impact of these restrictions varies enormously, depending on your country, your visa category, and your current status. Do not assume that general news applies to you until you have confirmed the specifics. Fourth, if you have immediate travel plans or pending applications, consider consulting with a qualified immigration attorney. I emphasize qualified because there are many people who claim to be immigration experts but are not licensed attorneys. A qualified attorney can review your specific circumstances and provide personalized guidance. Fifth, do not make any drastic decisions based on rumors or incomplete information. Do not abandon valid visa applications, do not attempt to enter the United States on inappropriate visa categories, and do not overstay your authorized period of stay. All of these actions can have long-term negative consequences for your immigration record. Sixth, if you are currently in the United States on a valid visa, focus on maintaining your status properly. Keep your documents in order, follow all the rules of your visa category, and document your compliance. Your lawful presence is your strongest position. Let me also take a moment to remind you of something important about how immigration policies work in the United States. Changes to immigration rules do not happen overnight without process. When executive actions are taken, they are typically subject to legal review. Courts can and do issue injunctions against policies that violate the law. Implementation guidance must be developed and distributed. There are usually transition periods and grace periods built into new policies. This means that even when a policy is announced, its actual implementation may look different from the initial reports. Legal challenges may modify or delay certain provisions. Clarifying guidance may reveal that the policy is narrower than originally reported. Implementation timelines may shift. I am not telling you this to give you false hope, but rather to help you understand that the immigration system has built-in processes that prevent sudden, chaotic changes. There is usually time to understand what is happening and respond appropriately. I also want to acknowledge that for many of you watching, this is not just an abstract policy discussion. This is about your ability to see your family. This is about the job you worked so hard to get. This is about the future you have been building. I understand the human weight of these policies, and I want you to know that this channel is committed to helping you navigate these challenges with accurate information and practical guidance. Now, let me briefly mention how other countries are responding to developments like these, particularly for viewers who may be considering alternative immigration paths. Canada, through Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, which is known as IRCC, continues to operate its own immigration programs independently. Canadian immigration policy is set by the Canadian government, not by U.S. policy decisions. If you are considering Canada as an immigration destination, you should research Canadian immigration programs through the official IRCC website, ircc.canada.ca, where you can find information about express entry, provincial nominee programs, and other pathways. The United Kingdom similarly maintains its own immigration policies through the Home Office. UK visa categories and requirements are separate from both US and Canadian systems. The official UK government website, gov.uk, provides information about UK visa options. I mention these alternatives not to suggest that you should abandon your U.S. immigration goals, but to remind you that you have options and that your future is not entirely dependent on any single country's policies. Keeping your options open and understanding multiple pathways can help reduce anxiety and give you more control over your situation. Now, as we wrap up, I want to leave you with some final thoughts. The immigration landscape is constantly evolving, and staying informed is your most important tool. However, staying informed does not mean constantly refreshing social media for the latest rumor. It means following reliable sources, understanding the fundamentals of how immigration law works, and having a clear picture of your own specific situation. I also want you to remember that you are not alone in navigating these challenges. Millions of people around the world deal with immigration uncertainty, and there is a community here on Real Guide News that is going through the same journey. We are here to support each other with information and understanding. Finally, I want to remind you that whatever happens with policy changes, your worth as a person is not determined by a visa stamp or an immigration status. These policies are about bureaucratic categories, not about your value as a human being. Keep that perspective even when the news feels overwhelming. If this video has helped you understand the situation more clearly, I want to ask you to do a few things. First, please subscribe to the channel if you have not already. We are building a community here focused on factual immigration information, and your subscription helps us reach more people who need this guidance. Second, turn on your notifications by clicking the bell icon. When immigration news breaks, you want to hear about it from a source that prioritizes accuracy over sensationalism. Third, share this video with someone you know who might be worried about these changes. There is someone in your life right now who is anxious about this news, and you can help them by sharing reliable information. Fourth, leave your questions in the comments below. I read the comments carefully, and your questions help me understand what topics to cover in future videos. Thank you for watching Real Guide News. I am Uzair, and I will continue to bring you calm, factual immigration guidance as this situation develops. Stay informed, stay calm, and I will see you in the next video.